Good morning, or good whatever time it is wherever you are. Here now, it is Monday morning at 8:30, and today I'm going to be talking about decision making, specifically how women tend to make decisions. And if you're watching this on replay, feel free to jump to about 3.5, 4 minutes in. I want to give people a little bit of time to come in and get settled while I fix things and set up my links. So let me go ahead and change my links now. There was a song by Creed a while back called Take Me Higher, or maybe it was just called Higher. It's been stuck in my head. Hopefully this works. If you've ever been here, whether you were a man or a woman, if you've ever been baffled by how women make decisions, this is for you. Oh, it's too long. There we go. Did you know that I'm a sexist pig? Of course you knew that. Of course you knew that. Well, but everybody's that these days. And a racist. And all the other ists and isms. All right. Now, today's going to be really great. So, because what I did is actually, let me bring this up here. I'll show you the original post here. Oh, that didn't work. I got to fix that. Keeps doing that. I have to do it in the replies. All right, I'll just do that. All right, I want to show you the original post that I made. It's here somewhere. There it is. Here it is. It's a little bit of an essay here. So I'll leave that up for a little bit. But this is what I'm going to be talking about today. Now, the first thing I want to do, though, is get everybody situated. So I'm going to remove this and so we can get started. All right. Now I'll bring it back in just a minute because we want to focus in, right? You want to be able to focus and be coherent in your thoughts. So the first thing we're going to do is take a deep breath in. We're going to do it a little bit differently today. We're going to take a deep breath in and imagine the air and the energy swirling around inside your head, inside the space of your skull. So you breathe in, hold your breath, swirl it around, and then swirl it around through the rest of your body. And then breathe it all out. All right, now I've tried a bunch of things, and this one works pretty well. You ready? All right, breathe in. Swirl it all around in your head. Swirl it all around throughout the rest of your body. And now breathe it all out. Good. Now, most people will find that it centers them and connects their mind to their body. And that's what you need, don't you? You ever feel like you're in too much in your head? Well, you can do that anytime to reset. And now the next thing we're going to do is because your mind's been all over the place today. just on different things you've got to do. So wherever your mind has been up to this point today, we're just going to take all of that and bring it all in here. Right? So you can focus in. Now, today, as I said, I'm going to be talking about decision making and specifically the decision making processes that women use. Now, this is not 100% of every single decision. I have to put this disclaimer out there. This is, humans are not, in fact, robots. I know it's some people say that there were, and there's a sense in which that is true, but generally speaking, there's enough complexity, enough randomness, enough differences of condition in there that it's quite difficult to really get a robotic prediction. So what I'm going to talk about are the general principles of how this works. Okay. Now, I don't know if you've watched me before for Feel Good Fridays, but if you do, or some of the other ones, you're going to understand that what I'm doing here is I'm going to be talking in rational terms at the conscious level. And then at the subconscious level, there's another story entirely going on. Now, by definition, all this stuff at the subconscious level you are unaware of, because that's what subconscious means. It means you're not aware of it. As soon as you're aware of it, it becomes conscious. Right? So there's stuff going on that you're not aware of, but you might detect the results later afterwards. Right? That's important. That's important. All right. So I'm just going to read, I'm going to add the post back, and then we're going to talk about it. And I'm going to read the whole thing because it's concise and every word is actually important. All right. The first thing I'm just going to say is I'm responding it. This was a question somebody asked me. I'm not going to go too far into it, but he didn't understand why a particular response was going to be valuable. And here it is. Women are generally so biologically attuned to social consensus, which is a mechanism for managing female intrasexual competition, right? And small details for keeping infants and toddlers alive. Now I'm going to go into both of those, okay? That female decision-making processes tend to default to one or both of those machines, decision-making frames. Okay. The only thing that can override the consensus is an external authority from outside the consensus, because he's outside the intrasexual competition. Okay. Now, if women don't have any context or consensus within which to make a decision, she feels destabilized because she has a need to check for consensus. She can't just ignore that. It's too attuned to survival and reproduction. Does that make sense? Right? Now, in that case, she can't determine if the small details of the situation will prove catastrophic or irrelevant or somewhere in between. So she can't tell if her choice is any good or not. Right? So this was a reply to someone who was saying, when my wife says, well, where do you want to go to eat? Or what do you think about this? And he didn't care at all. And he said, I don't care, whatever you think. And I said, no, wrong answer. The answer is, regardless of whether you don't care, you give her one of the options. You say, this one's better, right? You provide that authority. Now, she's going to then evaluate her choice based off of that context that you provided by putting an answer out there. That checks the box of checking for consensus. And it also checks the box of, is this detail going to be irrelevant or catastrophic or somewhere in between? Now, I'm going to explain this in more detail. The first thing I want to talk about is the social consensus as a way to manage female intrasexual competition. This is something that evolved, right? And you have to think of this not as human societies in the modern term. You got to think about this as ancient pre-conscious right? Pre-conscious humans, right? Because most mammals do a thing where it's harem behavior, where they have one male, lots of females. Why? Because the males are always competing, and there's over territory and resources and everything else. So they are always dying off, right? The males are always dying off, way higher rates than the females. And when humans got more intelligent, we got more effective at wiping each other out. And so you normally had high ratios of women to men, females to males. And so this just naturally occurs. You'd have uh, a certain tribe based off of all the wars, they would have 20 men and 100 women. Okay. Or something like that. I don't know the exact ratios, but it was a lot more women than men. You combine that with the concept of a male can reproduce with, shoot, thousands of females. One male can reproduce with thousands of females. Okay, one female during her lifetime can at most, like what, 10? 10 different males? And typically that's not a high percentage play. Typically, the better option for a female because of higher investment is to get the highest caliber, highest quality male she can get. Right? Men are like quantity. Females are more into the quality of the situation. So you end up with this situation where the women are in the tribe and they're sharing the warlord. The warlord is the guy with the external power, the military, the political power of the tribe. And again, this is a tribe. This isn't some giant king. This is just a tribe. So what do? Well, they can't leave the tribe because then they would probably starve to death or be captured or whatever, and their kids would be killed. Her kids would be killed. So she has to stay in the tribe, but she also has to compete against other females who are within the tribe and essentially the what do you call it? Other wives of the warlord. Now she wants every one of those women wants her offspring to succeed, to get the most resources, the most investment, right? To be fed the best, to be trained the best, to be given the political power, right, in the tribe. So how does she walk that line, right? She can't actively destroy others because she'll be kicked out of the tribe. Okay. But she can't do nothing because then her kids won't have the advantage. How do they do this? Well, it evolved into essentially, what's the right, sabotage, indirect sabotage. That became the go-to method, right? Women would realize that, hey, maybe I can't have 10 kids with the warlord, but I could have 3 and I could stop the other women from having more kids. Therefore, my kids get more of the tribe's resources, right? Now, if this sounds kind of messed up, it's better than chimpanzees because chimpanzee females will kill other chimpanzee females' kids. Okay, well, humans don't do that usually. Sometimes they do, not usually. So social consensus amongst women evolved, right? Hey, I'm asking all you guys, so I'm not the problem, right? We're going to agree on this so you can't blame me and kick me out and get rid of my kids. I'm in the tribe. I get the resources. My kids get the resources. I'm a member. Okay. I didn't do anything, right? That's the evolved mindset. And this isn't something that women go one day, wake up and go, oh, let me think this through. And that's probably the best way to do it. No, this is inherent in the female thinking. It evolved that way. It could not have evolved another way. It was a survival requirement in ancient humans. So that's one of the reasons women are so attuned to social consensus. Now, the other side of that I talked about was the fixation on small details. Why does that exist? Why do women's brains do that? They fixate on small details and they can't tell if it's going to be irrelevant or catastrophic or somewhere in between. The best theory I've heard about this, the best theory I've read about this is that when dealing with infants and toddlers and little children, little things can mean the life or death difference for the infant. Okay. Little tiny things can be, is this going to kill the child? Is this matter at all? They have to be on alert for all of them. And so that mental mechanism evolved in female brain hardware. Right? Detail. Okay, is this going to be a catastrophe or not? Now, men don't have that. Men do not fixate on small details. Men know if something's irrelevant or not very important. Men have risk evaluations that are way better for anything not dealing with little kids. Okay, now what females are much better at dealing with little kids because they have that function of let me fixate on this detail to check if it's wrong or right or bad or good or whatever. Right? Make sense? So we got those two mechanisms. And again, these mechanisms are ingrained. They are genetic. They're genetic. And it's consensus and it's details. Are details good? I mean, is the detail risky or not? You got to start with those. Now, when in the modern world, women are not spending basically 100% of their time on small children. Now, in the ancient world, they did. They died at 40. 40 was old. So they spent all their time either pregnant, nursing, or raising kids. Right? That was their entire lives once they were old enough to reproduce. Not so much anymore. And a lot of women are outside the child rearing in the house. So they are expanding into other contexts. However, those other contexts do not erase the genetics. And so wherever women are doing things, whatever they're doing, those two functions are gonna be at play. They're going to take effect. The need for consensus and the inability to distinguish the risk level of small details. Now, women will often say, well, I work twice as hard. Men will say, well, you did a lot of irrelevant work. Because those small details, the men realize, oh, I can safely skip that. The women don't know what they can safely skip because their brains are still trying to deal with infants. And if there's no infant in front of them, then that mechanism is still going to play out in the workplace. This is also why men have complained that so many workplaces have been turned into kindergartners. Kindergartens. Right? Everybody play nice. Everybody has to share. Things like that. And that's an exaggeration, but it is legit in the sense that those mechanisms of the female psyche are playing out in whatever context a woman finds herself in. Make sense? All right. Now, how does this matter in practical terms? Well, the original response was related to, as I said at the beginning, somebody was saying, hey, when my wife asks me about something I don't care about, I'll just be like, yeah, whatever you want, just pick one. And I said, that's the wrong answer. You don't do that. I said, you have to give her an answer. Because without your answer, she's not checking for consensus. She's not getting any feedback on whether something small detail is going to be irrelevant, catastrophic, or somewhere in between. And all you have to do is she's like, okay, well, do you want Thai or Vietnamese tonight? And you say, you don't care. Maybe you don't care at all. You just say, we'll do Thai. Do you want Thai more? No. Does it matter to you? Maybe not. But you give her an answer. And then she goes, okay, so that's what that says. Okay, I've checked for consensus. Is this decision, okay, we've got an answer here so that, okay, that's some feedback on determining the catastrophe level of this detail. Okay, so he said that. He said Thai, probably not that big of a deal. Okay. And then she'll go, now what do I think? Actually, I want Vietnamese. And she says, oh, can we do Vietnamese instead? And you say, yep, Vietnamese is better for today. And she'll go, yeah, okay, good. Let's go eat Vietnamese. And she's all happy because her decision has been evaluated as because the detail has been evaluated as non-catastrophic. The context has been checked, and she feels safe about that decision. And if there's any women watching, some of you are going to go, that's not what I do. And some of you are going to go, oh my God, that's exactly what I do. And for the men in there, try this with the women in your life. Give them an answer on everything, even if you don't really care one way or the other or don't have a strong opinion on it. Give her an answer. And then if she says, no, I actually want the other one, you say, yep, that's right. The other one's better anyway. It'll work. It'll work. So report back. Tell me how it goes. Because this is one of those things that you're like, this risks the, you're a misogynist. Why are you so stereotypical and all that? Well, you know what, dude? You know what? I'm a hypnotist, and I work with the subconscious mind, and there is no bullshit at the subconscious mind level. There is no bullshit at that level. That stuff is clear and clean. You get the real answer there. And that's why I can solve problems that no one else can really solve very well. That's why I get the results that I get, because I get to the level where things are really happening. And this level that I'm talking about today, that's where things really happen. That's the level at which things really happen. So try this out and see. You're going to discover probably that, wow, this worked a lot better than I thought. So thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this or found this useful or interesting, feel free to share this. If you want to like and subscribe, it expands my reach. And the algorithm likes that. Feel free to check out the links in the description. And I will talk to you tomorrow morning at 8:30.